a very good evening to you. And welcome along once again to Sweet and Swing here on Max Radio. My name's Howard Kane. A Friday evening, probably a damp one, but we'll soon cheer things up. So what have we got this evening? A bit of Ted Heath, haven't heard from Ted for a while. More from the songs of Jimmy Van Heusen. Blossom Dearie, what a voice she had, good pianist too. Jazz in Paris with Claude Bolling. To start off, well, what can I say? Other than, look at me when I'm talking to you. I told you to turn your head. Jack Jackson with Fred Latham. Latham? I'm never quite too sure how to pronounce his name. Answers on a postcard, you know where to send them. Howard Kane at maxradio.com if you're shouting at the radio. I think it's Latham, Fred Latham and chorus. We'll go with that in any case. Good vocal, good song as well. You Turned Your Head, Jack Jackson. We had Jack Harris and Jack Jackson. There's Jack Parnott. There's too many Jacks in swing music, I think, isn't there? Jack Hilton, yeah, they go on and on. But that was definitely Jack Jackson with Fred Latham. I can't make my mind up, Latham and chorus. And You Turned Your Head. Fred himself, an interesting character. All these characters are, of course, by and large, aren't they? He was self-taught on saxophone and self-taught singer as well. Also, a champion racing cyclist. He'd have done well on the Isle of Man, wouldn't he? In his youth, in the young years, that'd be early part of the 20th century, I guess. About 1920, somewhere around there. He was from New Mills in Derbyshire, and he used his cycling talents to cycle all the way from Derbyshire down to London. I don't know how far that is, but it's further than I could manage, to carry out a successful audition for none other than Jack Jackson, for whom he subsequently made several records. He freelanced with Jay Wilbur and Prima Scala and then moved on to sing with Jack as well. He also was the founder of the Jackdaws and the Haristocrats. Yeah, I'm not familiar with either of those particularly, and later went on broadcast with quite a few well-known bands and had his own group called the Cuba Swing Band. Was in the Second War, of course, played and sang with the Blue Mariners, and he broadcast in Navy Mixture, if you remember that. Another one I don't remember, Navy Mixture. And then later on in the 1940s, he was on stage with Henry Hall at the Empire Theatre in Sheffield when a bomb landed backstage. And this is what we quite often talk about. We've got ENSA coming up a bit later on, and we've been talking about this, how these entertainers carried on through the war years, literally putting themselves at danger of death pretty much every time they performed. You just didn't know. And that was the case with Henry Hall and Fred as well. Happily, in this particular instance, and it was perhaps a rare one, everyone escaped. No one was died or seriously injured. A happy story for that one for once. It wasn't quite so good for some, of course, as we know, we've heard of before. And then at the end of the war, he continued singing until the 1950s, and then decided to leave the entertainment business and became an electrical engineer. And I'm told as well, a little footnote I was reading in the Book of Words, it says that he was a champion cyclist in his youth. He thought nothing of doing 50 miles a day following his retirement in 1970. So it'd be a reasonable age by then. So 50 miles, could you manage 50 miles a day on your bicycle, regardless of what age you were? I suspect not.
wide open, I'm dreaming. Can it be true? I'm holding you close to my heart. With my eyes wide open, I'm dreaming. You're with me now, sharing a vow never to part. I'm so afraid to close my eyes, afraid that I'll find this lovely thrill is just a silly illusion. With my eyes wide open, I'm dreaming. Do I deserve such a break? Pinch me to prove I'm awake. I can't believe that you're really mine.
Very nice. To Henry Hall there with my eyes wide open. Henry Hall, Les Allen on the vocals. And I was just thinking, listening to that one, and after our opener with Jack Jackson and Fred, how the likes of Ken Snakehips Johnson, of course, died in an attack whilst he was performing during the Blitz. Al Bowley, likewise, just after getting home, I think. He wasn't actually performing. He'd been performing, then got home, and his lodgings were hit during the Blitz, I think it was, and the great Al Bowley lost his life in that way as well. So amazing, really, how in that particular case, no one lost their lives at all. It must have been a pretty rare occurrence, it has to be said. Now then, I mentioned a bit of Francais, jazz in Paris. Found this one on the shelves. The shelves are pretty well stocked, as you can imagine, since I had transferred quite a lot of the recordings from Music Man Towers up to the Blackstonic Mill on the hill here, so we could dip into them more easily. And Claude Bolling plays the original piano greats in the Jazz in Paris series on the Gitan label. Don't think we've featured this one before. I've certainly know Claude Bolling, and I know some of his big band work, which I think I might have even played on the sister programme Jumping In with Brother Chris at some stage. But a fine pianist, he, and it's got to be worth dipping into this one as well, I'd have thought. Something appropriate for the time of year, was my thought. Nothing more appropriate than autumn, perhaps, than Misty. Claude Bolling at the piano playing the classic Misty, as you probably recognised there. I thought that was quite appropriate for the time of year, don't you? Well, it's been more rainy than misty of late, or a bit of both in some cases. Reading the liner notes, I was listening to that. They're a bit sniffy about one of our regulars here on Sweet and Swing, namely Charlie Kunz. And the liner notes by Alain Tresenet. I don't know he. Alain Tresenet. I suspect he's a jazz critic of some kind or other. But happily there is an English translation, because my French wasn't quite up to reading it in French. In case you thought it was there. Liner notes in French and English, being a French CD. So the English translation reads thus. Who still remembers Charlie Kunz, the sugary pianist who used to slip bashful syncopation into his aseptic renderings? Damning with faint praise at best there. The songs were often American, but hardly anyone remembers the pianist. Well, I beg to differ, Anna, I beg to differ. Yet there was a time when Charlie was responsible by complete chance for a certain number of vocations among the French keyboard champions. He led Claude Bolling astray, for example, Goodbye to Classical Piano and Feu Elise. Claude Bolling was 13 and wearing short trousers when he entered an amateur tournament and got a distinction. He went back a year later, 1944, and this time won the soloist prize. Need it be said that the star of Charlie Kunz in Bolling's Hall of Fame was now considerably dimmer. Not a fan of Charlie Kunz, I think we can take it from that Alain Tresenet. The fact that he was one of the most popular pianists of his time during his peak time, like all stars, eventually he had his time and faded away. Ill health didn't help either, but was earning mega bucks, making huge amounts of money back in the day. Seems to have slightly skipped his memory, or at least sidetracked that a bit. Whether he liked his style or not, he was massively popular in his time, and tastes change, don't they? Things move on. Probably does sound a bit dated now, but it was a good player in his own style, doing his medleys. But there we go. And so is Claude Bolling, a fine player, and did some wonderful big bands with Kenny Clarke, I think it was. Is that right? I think he did, if memory serves correct. Good stuff in any case. Something a little bit different. Now then, what are the good folk of Ensa up to? Mischief, no doubt, as always.
Soldier who goes marching down the street. He's every inch a soldier from his head down to his feet. Watch his step and watch his style. He's one of the elite. Soldier boy, you're in everyone's heart. Soldier boy, you're the top from the start. You look fine in the line of the soldier of today. With an air, I declare that you mean to have your way, soldier boy. As you travel the road, soldier boy, as you carry the load, every mile is worthwhile as you march with the smile of a British soldier boy. Soldier boy, you're in everyone's heart. Soldier boy, you're the top from the start. You look fine in the line of the soldier of today. With an air, I declare that you mean to have your way, soldier boy. As you travel the road, soldier boy, as you carry the load, every mile is worthwhile as you march with the smile of a British soldier boy.
This is Henry Hall saying goodbye for now, and here's to the next time.
And that's all for today, girls and boys. The programme you heard came from the concert of a Royal Army Ordnance Corps depot somewhere in the south. So this is Stephen Williams saying goodbye, good luck, and good listening, and let the people sing if there's time.
You have been listening to Break for Music, a program brought to you by the ENSA Radio Unit and presented by the Department of National Service Entertainment.
Until I smile at you, I'll never laugh again. What good would it do? For tears would fill my eyes, my heart would realize that our romance is through. I'll never love again, I'm so in love with you. I'll never thrill again to somebody new. Within my heart, I know I will never start to smile again until I smile at you.
I'll Never Smile Again. Very nice indeed. Joe Loss, of course, and the orchestra. Joe, well, again, no stranger over here on the Isle of Man. Joe Loss played quite a few seasons down at the Villa Marina. Youngest of 4 children, and his parents, Israel and Ada, Russian Jews, and also first cousins. And Joe himself started the band leading or playing in bands in the early 1930s and worked at the Astoria Ballroom, and then moved on to the Kit Kat Club, and then he topped the bill at the Holborn Empire in the mid-1930s, and then went on to appear back at the Astoria again. Vera Lynn appeared with the Joe Loss Orchestra, of course, in her very first radio broadcast, and went on to be a massive hit over the years, hugely popular, resident band leader at the Hammersmith Palais, still going, the Palais, of course, as an entertainment venue, and was remembered by a trainee nurse at Hammersmith Hospital as being as kind and gentlemanly when she attended him in hospital as he was in his public persona. That's rather nice to know, isn't it? And of course, his signature tune, In the Mood. What I didn't know was, looking at Mr. Wiki, that he was actually the subject of This Is Your Life twice. You wouldn't have thought that was loud, would you? Surely once is enough. You only get one life as far as I'm aware, certainly on this planet in any case. Why you could get two, but apparently Joe did. Such was his star. In May 1963, he was surprised by Eamon Andrews at the Hammersmith Palais in London, and then again, 17 years later in October 1980, Andrews surprised him at London's Portman Hotel during a star-studded party to celebrate Joe's 50 years in show business. Great favourite, of course, of the royal family, and did many royal variety performances, but also at Christmas parties hosted by the royal family. Yes, played for them privately as well. Earned him not only the OBE, but also the LVO, which was a personal gift of the Queen. I'm trying to think what it stands for. Do you know? Lord of Victory? No. Answers on a postcard, or look it up on Google like everyone else. LVO, what's that? A personal gift from the Queen. Anyway, can't be bad, can it? Just for a band leader and a poor lad from the East End over in Spitalfields. Not a bad finish in life, I would say, wouldn't you? Time for a bit of Bing, I think. We must be getting towards the end of our little list of the world of Bing Crosby on the sentimental side, but I think we can squeeze another week or two in. You can't have too much Bing on the run up towards Christmas, can you?
You're a sweet little headache, but you are lots of fun. I've a good mind to spank you, then thank you for all you've done. You're a sweet little headache, full of quaint little schemes. But when I should forget you, I let you disturb my dreams. I thought that I could hold my own with you. You got me all perplexed. Here am I alone with you. What are you going to do next? You're a sweet little headache. If you keep on that way, what a sweet little heartache you'll turn out to be someday. I thought that I could hold my own with you. You got me all perplexed. Here am I alone with you. What are you going to do next? You're a sweet little headache. If you keep on that way, what a sweet little heartache you'll turn out to be someday.
Nice number, that one. I don't know that I know it at all. You're a sweet little headache. Whether you get away with the spank line, I'd like to spank you, then thank you. Yes, I don't think you'd probably be allowed with in our slightly more PC world these days. But of course, it wasn't written these days. It was written 50, 60 or more 70, 80 years ago, I think, that one. Sweet little headache. Bing Crosby from the sentimental side of Bing. We've been enjoying that one over the last, several weeks. I've lost track now of how many weeks we've been doing that, but it's how many tracks? 20. We haven't been doing it for 20 weeks, so we can't have played all the tracks. So I can definitely squeeze another one or two in, particularly as I've been enjoying it. Sweet little headache, a nice little one that. Nope, don't recognise it. Still don't recognise it. It could be the sort of song that my other half might sing to me, or there again, she might not. Right, hold on to your hats. Here's a wacky one for you, definitely with a capital N on the novelty side of things, from our collection On the Right Road, classic motoring music. I was looking for something about driving through puddles, but I couldn't find it. However, just the thing for driving through puddles is a 4x4 or a Jeep, and here's... I told you this is wacky. It is Spike Jones and his City Slickers, and if you know what they're like, you'll know what to expect. Little Bo Peep has lost her Jeep.
Jackson had a girl he fondly called Bo Peep. Now Jackson didn't have a car, so drove by in a Jeep. They took a ride, the time flew by, and Bo Peep was in heaven. Till Jackson cried, Bo Peep, his Jeep's gotta be in camp by 11. So little Bo Peep has lost her Jeep and don't know where to find it. Her soldier boy took it back to camp and left Bo Peep behind it. It didn't have doors, the seats were hard, but Bo Peep never minded. It didn't ride like a Cadillac, she wondered who designed it. Roller coasters nearly killed her, aeroplanes, they never thrilled her. But with Jackson at the wheel, she got that Jeep appeal. Now little Bo Peep wants to find her Jeep and find her soldier chappie. If he comes chug-chuggy in his old bit's buggy, Bo Peep will be happy. Little Bo Peep has lost her Jeep. Her boyfriend made an error. He let her drive. Goodness sakes alive, that Bo Peep, she's a terror. With throttle pushed down, she tore through town. The red lights didn't stop her. The soldier knew that they both were through, and she sideswiped a copper. Bo Peep has lost her Jeep. Oh my, why must her joy end? Now her little Jeep is laying in a heap, and the guardhouse has her boyfriend.
What can I say? Tasteful? Well, probably not. Wacky? Definitely. Great musicianship, without a doubt. It is wacky, but they could all play and play very well indeed. And that percussion work, it just sounds wacky, but it's actually difficult to do that in time and in tune, playing those pots and pans and actually getting it right. You need a real skill to do that. So it's one of those things which sounds completely bonkers, but only sounds bonkers in a good way because the people doing it are so good, if you see what I mean. It's like playing the piano badly. Actually trying to play badly, as it were, but recognisably is quite difficult unless you can really play the piano. I think Les Dawson used to do it rather well, didn't he? They were all fine musicians and just chose to play in this wacky, zany style. And I always remember going back in the day playing, there was an LP, I don't know who's got it now, maybe my brother has, but an LP that the old maestro have, Spike Jones and his City Slickers. And I used to love playing that one on the old stereogram, I think it would be, which is probably still lurking up in the attic somewhere. Remember the stereograms? State of the art at the time. They still make a reasonable sound, and furthermore, you could put 6 records on at once. Don't know whether vinyl purists would think of it these days. I was looking at vinyl the other day, which has obviously been enjoying a resurgence. But new vinyl now, you buy a new jazz record and vinyl, how much? Round about £34 per record. Yes, would you stack 6 of those on top of each other? Maybe not. I don't know. There's a lot of money on the turntable there if you get them scratched. Yes, Spike Jones and his City Slickers on the old stereogram used to be great fun, and there was all sorts of numbers. Cocktails for Two, and there was one member of the band who did this. I couldn't do it, but he did this weird sort of throaty noise where he sort of gargled at the back of his throat, but could do it forwards and backwards and do it all in tune and in time. Very impressive indeed, if completely bonkers. It is Sweet and Swing, H with you through until the top of the hour. I think we need something perhaps a little bit more tasteful, a little slower, a bit more romantic, and a nice one to stretch out to. So this is the one, as we say, where you can go and change your slippers or put your slippers on, run the bath or get into the bath, make another cup of tea, pour another scotch, whatever you fancy. It's a nice long one to stretch out to. Isn't it romantic? Tal Farlow. Lovely stuff. I told you it was one to stretch out to. Isn't it romantic? Well, I think that was a very romantic, a beautiful track, played beautifully by the great Tal Farlow, and you speak to many jazz guitar players. He's always there in the background somewhere, Tal. He's one of those unsung heroes of the electric jazz guitar. Tal Farlow there in the company of Eddie Costa piano and Vinnie Burke on the bass, recorded in the mid-1950s in New York. Now I'm aware I promised you some Ted Heath and some Blossom Dearie, and if I don't warble too much, I can fit them both in.
I hear music, mighty, mighty pretty music. The murmur of the morning breeze up there, the rattle of a milkman on the stair. Sure, that's music, mighty, mighty pretty music. The singing of a sparrow in the sky, the perking of the coffee right nearby. That's my favorite melody. You, my angel, phoning me. I hear music, mighty, mighty fine music. And anytime I think my world is wrong, I get me out of bed and sing this song. I hear music, mighty, mighty pretty music. The murmur of the morning breeze up there, the rattle of the milkman on the stair. Sure, that's music, mighty, mighty pretty music. The singing of a sparrow in the sky, the perking of the coffee right nearby. There's my favorite melody. You, my angel, phoning me. I hear music, mighty, mighty pretty music. And anytime I think my world is wrong, I get me out of bed and sing pretty music, pretty, pretty music. Get me out of bed and sing all day long, pretty, pretty music.
lovely stuff. That second one almost sounds like it's not going to start, doesn't it? The Donegal Cradle song by Ted Heath and his orchestra. And it starts so quietly and you think, oh gosh, is there something wrong? That almost sounds like the orchestra's in the distance or in another room, or perhaps it's not... your CD player's not working, and then the band comes in. Lovely stuff indeed. Ted Heath from a Living Era CD. Ted Heath and his music. Listen to My Music, some original mono recordings from the mid-40s to 1950, and that's a lovely one actually to finish Donegal Cradle song. I'm not suggesting you go to your cradle, but you might be vaguely thinking about wending your way up towards your pit. Who knows, depending on your mood. You might be a night owl and stay there all night, you never know. And before that, Blossom Dearie, singing and playing the piano, of course, with the great Ray Brown at the bass and Joe Jones on the drums. Can't get much better section than that, can you, with the rhythm section? You forget, everyone thinks of Blossom Dearie with that slightly effeminate, girly voice, but what a great musician she was. Both great musicians, both Blossom and Ted, in very different ways, but wonderful musicians, as indeed I like to think all the musicians we feature here on Sweet and Swing are wonderful. Just some of them might have been forgotten in the mists of time as the years roll by. And as we all know, and as we keep saying on this programme, fame is a very fickle thing. You can be the absolute peak of stardom for a few years, and then the star begins to fade, and then amazingly it disappears altogether pretty much in the universe of talent. And so 30, 40, 50 years go by, and you've gone from being a household name to a name that hardly anyone remembers at all. Other than us, of course, here on Sweet and Swing. Because the music lives forever. That's about it for another week, I reckon. But fear not, we'll be back same time, same place next week here on Manx Radio. Where else? Don't forget all the other specialist programmes, of course. 9 o'clock every night. Wonderful stuff. Whether it's brass or opera or folk, take your pick. In the meantime, look after yourselves. Try not to get too wet. And I'll see you then. Cheerio.